You're tuned into the Wade Borth Podcast, the place where clarity replaces confusion and real conversations open new doors for your financial life. Let's dive in and rethink what's possible. Hello, welcome back to the Wade Borth Podcast. So last podcast we were going over the 4 stages of whole life, and we went through stage 1 and stage 2 and what that looked like, and really what it took to move from stage 1 to stage 2, and really start thinking about how we go from a stage 2 person that is like looking at how we use whole life in our infinite banking concept. And so now we'll be touching on stage 3 and stage 4, which are the business banker and the true IBC person that's going to be out there. So sit back, relax, listen to the podcast as we go through stage 3 and stage 4. Again, reach out to us, like us, share us on YouTube or in the podcast section. All the comments all helps us out. So sit back, relax, listen to this, absorb it, understand it, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you. So let's move on to stage 3, which is the business banker. Again, you can call it what you want, but this is where I see a lot of people aspire to. I'm like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, I got some money in my policy, and I'm leveraging the loan capability of the policy. That's not really infinite banking. It's a strategy, but I don't know that I would call it infinite banking. It might be more akin to what we call a business banker. So let's define what a business banker is. Again, this is a person that says, hey, I want more control of my finances. I want to hold more control. I don't want to give it away to other people. I don't want to give it away to Wells Fargo, to BlackRock, to my 401k, whatever it is. I need to take control of it because it's closer to me and I have a closer relationship with my money. So it's this idea of control. And what you start doing is you start redirecting all your cash flows, or at least our mindset says, I need to run as much as I possibly can through my policy, either loan repayments, premiums. And this is where we start to see people putting in, 20, 30, and we even have clients that are doing 40% of their income into their policies because the mind shift has changed. There's been a change in their mindset. And what I mean by that is they don't see premium as an expense. They go, I know that I'm going to put money into my policies, but I have a plan for those dollars once it's there. And so they don't see it as money that's locked up and never used again. They understand how to use it. And this is really, I would say 20, 25% of the population is going to get this part of it. And it is a fun conversation once people start to get this idea of, oh, I've put money in there, but it's not locked away like my 401k, because again, we've been conditioned to think that our whole lives. You don't see it for the next 30 years. Well, it's exactly the opposite of the business banker conversation that we're going to have. You start redirecting more money into your policy because of all the benefits, the privacy, it's off the tax radar. We can borrow against it when we need it. It's safe, secure, it's guaranteed. It's going to grow up in value. All the things we talk about from the 8 benefits conversation that we have about whole life. Then we move into this idea of more control because now we have this big pool of money. And once you have a big pool of money that's safe, secure, guaranteed, liquid, never going to go backwards, and is a liquidity contract that we've talked about before, now the true leverage comes into play. So we're redirecting all our cash flow in there and we're expanding our banking system. Now it's become a bigger part of our conversations. It's not this small fragmented piece of our financial junk drawer, right? So it is that big piece. And why it's so valuable is because it brings all those benefits, and I want to hold my money there in order to integrate a strategy. We have a couple of clients that do a lot of hard money lending, and they love this because it stores money, or they want it, and they want to get at it. It's easy to do, and they can go do a hard money loan. And they said in order to be able to expand that system from a banking perspective, their mindset is an entrepreneurial banking mindset. They go, if we want to triple our portfolio, we add a half-time person to be able to do the accounting for it, because it's just the movement of money. It doesn't take physical labor to do this. This doesn't take, you don't have to become a tradesman in this in order to do this. You have to get educated and you have to understand what you're doing. But most people that are doing this have grown in their thought process around this. This is why I think it's so valuable. Again, we all grow. Why do people grow from that saver, to that wealth builder, to the business bankers? Because they've had their policy, they've implemented, they've been educated, and they've just had some time. So they're growing in their understanding of what this can do for them. Also, they've grown in their income. And now they've been able to take control of their debt. They've been able to understand how much they need to save to not put their family in danger or themselves in a bad position if things turn south. And then now we can take advantage of opportunities. And this is where you have these key components of wealth building. Like we have a debt strategy. We have an investment strategy. We have all our assets protected in a legal sense and all these other things we're talking about. And so now you've become very solid in your financial conversations because you're treating this like a business. If I lend Wade Borth $50,000, I have the same expectation that he's going to pay it back. He's going to pay it back on time. He's going to pay it back with interest as I do lending money to Fred, who's down the street, right? Just like owning a business. What's the number one purpose of owning a business? To make profit. And we see money flow now not as something we're going to give away, but we're going to treat it as the valuable asset that it is. So if we use it, okay, let's make sure we apply an interest, make sure we get it paid back, because again, that's how Wells Fargo stays in business. That's how Chase stays in business. That's quite frankly how they flourish, and that's how they, can build a new. Where I'm at right now, it seems like every other building that's going up is a bank or a credit union. I mean, there must be some tremendous value there. So let's look at the players in the money game, understand what they're doing, and it's like, let's replicate that. And part of that is like just treating it like a business. How many people treat their money transactions like a business? Or are we treating it like a consumer? The mind shift here is that we really start to see our money as from a business perspective versus a consumer perspective. Because most people from a consumer perspective see money as something that you give away in exchange for something else. That's a consumer perspective. And there's nothing wrong with that. Part of that is like, how do I treat this like a business? And we have the strategies here. Again, it starts with having a pool of capital. It's like any other business. What's the old adage? The reason why most businesses fail is from lack of capitalization. What we're doing when we say, hey, we need to save more, and we save the right environment, is capitalizing our business. So again, you start as a saver, that phase one, that's great. That gets you into the fact that you're capitalizing your system. Are you capitalizing it fast enough, big enough? More than likely not, because we all start with this little bit of fear like, oh, I got fear that premiums are an expense. Once we kind of get over that and go, oh, I see it's beneficial to me, I see it's how it's starting to work, then we move to that phase two where we're like, okay, let's use it as our own personal tool. Let's eliminate some of our debt and let's bring that debt inside. Let's start treating it like the asset that it is. Now we're going to move it into like, okay, how do I go out and find other customers? How do I go out and bring other people to where I can make money off of somebody that maybe needs money for a fix and flip? And that's being done all the time. So why can't you be the financier of those opportunities? Why can't you be the financier of somebody wanting to buy land? Why can't you be the financier from a private standpoint? These private transactions are going on all the time. And why most people go, I didn't know anything about it. Well, the reason why most people didn't know anything about it is because they didn't have the ability to take advantage of those opportunities. But once you have a pool of money built up, guess what happens? You're going to find those opportunities because now you're going to have some awareness like, oh, shoot, those things are out there. And so again, through our network and through our Factum Family Office network that we're putting together, there's a lot of people that are having conversations about how do I find those opportunities. And so again, if you're in a position of saying, hey, I want to move to that business banker conversation, let's talk, because it can't happen overnight, but more than likely it's going to take a little bit of thought, a little bit of planning, and how do we do that? And so this is the business banking strategy that we talk about. And again, I think the people that get to this point, when I've read this in the book too, is like, you're going to win by default, because you think about how many people see cash and savings as the tremendous asset that it is. I would say not a lot, because again, we're conditioned to think as consumers. Then the question is, if you use dollars, are you treating it with the respect that it needs to be treated? Most people aren't. What I mean by that is, are you paying it back with principal and interest? And are you treating it like any other financial agreement? Again, you wouldn't treat the loan that you had from Wells Fargo to buy that vehicle with like, oh, maybe I'll make the payment this month or not. You make the payment because you have to, because it's somebody else's money and they're demanding that. Well, why don't you demand that of yourself, of ourselves? And again, I'm not pointing fingers at you. I'll talk to me. Why aren't we doing that ourselves? If you borrow money to pay taxes, what's our plan to pay it back? Obviously, we have to, because I want to start capturing all those dollars that have flowed through my hands my whole life, and I have nothing in a sense of cash to be able to show for it. So that's why this is so valuable, is that it starts changing our mindset. But now it gives us the ability to say, hey, over the last 5 years, I've earned, you know, $500,000, whatever it is, whatever, how much ever you've earned over the last 5 years. And now I can say, I can write a big check because I start seeing money as a different asset. Instead of a consumption asset, it's a revenue producing asset. And that's why I think there's a lot of difference. Like people see money as to be consumed. I'm like, well, if you think about it from a standpoint of, well, what if we had the ability to take that money and then go use that to create other assets, create other cash flow? That's when it becomes valuable. So that's the business banker mentality that we start seeing with people. And that's the transformation that people start getting into. And once they've gone there, again, it's probably 25% of the people that have whole life for savings vehicles, or 25% of the population will ever get here. And maybe that's even a little bit high. But I don't want to discourage you if that's what you want to do, because it does take a little bit of education. It takes the courage to ask some questions. Like, hey, Wade, why does it say this? And let's get into a discussion about where you're at in that process. Because once you ask those questions and once you get engaged, it's actually going to move a lot faster than you think. This can happen in a couple if we're intentional about our moves. So we go from the business banker, stage 3 is this business banker. And we have good control over our financial life. But the more important thing is if we move this idea of infinite banking. So now imagine the lower right-hand corner, there's a gold box, stage 4, and it says infinite banking across the top. This is what gives you the most control in your financial picture by doing, the ultimate control. This is where your intent is to have all your money flow through your policies, all your money flow through, in Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, he talks about when you have 100% of your income flowing through your banking system. That's truly infinite banking. And I would say that there's probably 10% of the people that are actually doing that, but it's a great aspiration. You might say, perfect. But this is what I consider infinite banking. And I don't want to discourage people from getting there, because what does it really mean to be there? It's a mindset more so than anything else. So it's this idea of like, hey, I want to have a family banking legacy set up where my family will never walk into a traditional bank ever again. Think about that for a second. If you understand infinite banking, you're going to say, why would I ever want them to go into a commercial bank? Where if they came and borrowed money from the family bank, it's serving multiple people. It's serving mom and dad, maybe from generating retirement income that they're using. But what if we paid it to our family? What if we become this interdependent idea? And this is where the infinite banking comes to. I did a podcast a while back, and it talks about this idea of a closed financial ecosystem. That's what infinite banking is to me, is this closed financial ecosystem. And again, if you have to imagine a dome, a baseball dome, but it takes a while to close the roof on these domes, these huge domes. And that's really what the process of infinite banking is. Like you start with the dome wide open and you start playing the game and you say, oh, I see the storm coming. I need to start closing the roof on this thing. And that's really what we're talking about, is this idea of closing the ecosystem, closing the dome on our finances. So we keep those dollars within our lives, right? That's the real infinite banking, is like when we start keeping all our dollars that flow into our system, we keep it within that system as much as we possibly can. And again, the idea is don't let perfect get in the way of getting it done. Somebody's going to say, oh, there's this one leak over here. How do you expect them to not have this go out? Okay, maybe there is some leaks, but like any other dome, it's going to keep out 99.99% of the rain that's going to fall. There might be some water that seeps in or some moisture somewhere. But don't let that stop you from thinking, I can make this happen in my family. Because we have this closed ecosystem now where you might say, hey, the kids are going to go to college. Let us finance that. Instead of, in North Dakota, it might be the Bank of North Dakota or whatever is where you're going to get the loan. Then when they pay back principal and interest, they're paying it back to people that same alignment of values. And that's really the key. It's like you have the same alignment of values with people where you're borrowing the money from. This will bring families together because everybody that, if it's your kids, for example, and your kids are out there and going, hey, I need to borrow money for a down payment on a house or to buy a house or to start a business. If they understand that eventually all the dollars that they're paying is money that they're going to be able to get back out, why wouldn't they want to do business with their business, right? So it's this idea of you're creating this business of banking within your family. So now the family should be this interdependent. And we love having this multi-generational legacy conversation. of interdependence within those people that are part of our system. And so again, if this excites you, if you say, I would love to, the value I'm going to bring to the discussion with my family isn't about a policy, isn't a product, but it's more of a mindset. And who do we need to become? And again, that's in Nelson Nash's book, Become Your Own Banker. The real key is the word becoming. And I think, who do we need to become? Who does our family need to become? What's our goal here in order we can have this legacy? And this is truly the infinite banking mindset. It's about wealth preservation, but it's more about significance and influence within our family, being a great leader within our family, within our community. I mean, this is happening all the time, by the way. This isn't an anomaly. This isn't something that we theoretically talk about that never happens. It's happening all the time, right? There's a credit union, a family credit union out on the East Coast where generations of family have created their own credit union. So you belong to it by being part of the family, but you have to still qualify. You still have to be a good risk to the family because there's an expectation that if you borrow money, you got to pay back. Because if you don't, the business dies, and that's not not why you're doing this, right? And that's why most families, they always say that generational wealth is typically 2 to 3 generations. Is because there's no plan, right? It's like we grew, and then people started taking advantage of it, and they weren't doing and then it typically crumbles because the grandson or the great grandson or the person that started this didn't understand the struggles, they didn't understand the conversations and what they needed to learn. So what we try to do is we bring some framework to that. We have a whole system talking about how do we bring this multi-generational legacy planning to the family. So this is the infinite banking strategy where our thought process is like everything should flow through our policies. And because of that's what's going to grow our system. This is going to grow our process. And it can happen fairly quick. It's just how committed are you to making that happen? But we have the educational resources. We have the tools for you to grab a hold, be educated, ask great questions. Give me a call. Give me somebody on our team a call. We'll help you walk through that process to how do you grow into the higher levels of whole life. How do you use the tool that's at hand? Because the tool at hand is a great tool. But again, if we only use it for one purpose and one purpose alone, and it works, great. But have an understanding that it can grow much bigger than that. And it all depends on where you want to take it, right? So that's why it's so valuable for us to have a conversation. So we can have an understanding of what is it you want to do? And then once you get there, then what's next? So there is a plan, there is a progression here. So you can continue to grow within yourself because that's the ultimate freedom. That's the ultimate control you're going to have is the more you know, the more you're understanding, and the more you're implementing these things, you're closing that financial ecosystem. You're closing that dome around your family and around your assets. The more you keep and the more you control, the less others have control over you. So it's taking back that control. So hopefully this series, I know there's 4 parts. We're actually having a whole day seminar in Scottsdale, Arizona around this, but this is such a valuable conversation to have. And I would just encourage you, if you got questions, let's reach out, let's have a conversation, because this is a passionate for me so people can start taking back control of their financial future. Because right now, there's very little clarity to most people's financial future because they haven't thought through what do I need to do to take back control. We've given control away to everybody else. So now we're responsible to everybody else. Like they're pulling the strings on our, they're the Geppetto to our Pinocchio, right? Cut those strings, take control, and find a way to move through these different phases. Ultimately, you might say, I don't want to be an infinite banker. It's too much. That's fine. But are you a business maker? And it's just about understanding where you want to be and how that's going to serve you. And then eventually, after you've done it enough and you've implemented it enough and years have gone by, you might say, now I know there's the next step. And so we can implement that next step. So it all starts with saving, getting a pool of money so that you can take control of your financial future. So if you got questions, reach out to us. Love to have a deeper conversation, one more tailored to your personal needs and where you're at. We have the tools and resources to help you get where you want to go. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today. Remember, small shifts lead to lasting change. Keep thinking differently, keep moving forward, and we'll see you next time.